Hello, I'm Azai. Welcome to another Let's Play. So, just to preface this, I actually got the game from Laplacian. And yeah, it's not that they want me to make a video or anything like that. They were the one that approached me and said that, do you want to cover this game we have called Harmonic Fractions because they're doing a translation of this. So I took a look, and turns out that the reason why they did a retranslation was because in the old translation, they were using AI to, machine translate the game. And this time, they actually did a human translation. Hence, the retranslation, and it's gonna come out on the 17th. This is like their early access slash debug of, gameplay, or, not gameplay, what's the word I'm looking for? Like version that they have. And yeah, I basically said, sure, let me cover it. I don't know anything about the game. And yeah, it's actually called Harmonic Reflections instead of Harmonic Memories, which I said that in the update video, it was called Harmonic Memories. My bad, guys. But yeah, I have absolutely no idea about Laplacian other than from my friend. He played two of their games, which is Cyanotype. I think the more popular name of it is called Aujashin or something. And then the other one is like the radio pigeon thing. He said Cyanotype was pretty good and the radio one was just whatever. And this is a story, or Laplacian basically makes stories usually focused on romance, which I'm not really the type that likes romance, but you know what? This is only 5 hours long, so I said, sure, why not? Let me give it a shot. Because all of the other playthroughs I have right now going on are not really that much thinking. And this is just a reading playthrough. I don't think it's going to be that difficult to do, to follow along. But yeah, I have absolutely no idea what this story is about. I did not even read the description on VNDB, nor did I do so on their freaking Steam page. So I'm just going blind. But yeah, if you guys don't know, I'm Azai. I play visual novels and such. I've been playing visual novels for 15 years. Yeah, I'm a very, very, very old visual novel player guy. Okay, I like to put the volume maximum. BGM seems fine. BGM volume during voice playback. I don't like it when it's lower, so I'm actually going to put it at the same volume as how it is there. Okay, that actually nice. It attaches itself. System sound is fine. I'm guessing that the main girl is that Sari girl there, and then everyone else is just an NPC, or not an NPC, but not really a main character. But yeah, I'm not gonna bore you guys with my rant and yapping anymore, so let's just continue. Or not continue, but let's just start the game and see where this goes. Hey, start the game. Got an achievement. My thoughts drifted to a sound my world no longer knew. My thoughts drifted to a sound my world no longer knew. Okay. Not gonna lie, this first sentence itself is already a bit weird. They didn't give me any sort of, like a mandate about what I should talk about in this game, by the way. So if I were to criticize their localization or translation or whatever, yeah, I will still do so. Including me maybe not liking the story and whatnot. A sound that no longer reached me. A sound that stopped at my fingertips. Piano tones. At some point, they had slipped away from my world. Though they rang in my ears, my mind refused to let them in. I had no idea why. I couldn't remember. So I can't hear piano sounds? Hundreds of visitors streamed past as I stood beside the school gate. It really was the largest school festival in the prefecture. The crowd never waned. The low thrum, I don't know what the thrum is, of overlapping footsteps filled the air. As my thoughts wandered to the vanished sound, I failed to notice her glare amid the drumming tide. Standing in front of me was a girl with a scowl on her face. In contrast to me standing there like a statue, she slouched against the gate pillar, hands stuffed into the pockets of her thin tracksuit. It was June, so I doubt she was cold. She had a nasty glare, but her features were frighteningly beautiful. A stream of people flowed between us as we faced each other. From a distance, we probably looked like a pair of beautiful Komainu statues. Oh, by the way, I've actually seen a couple of the, sprites of the game, like from the Aojoshin game, or like the radio pigeon one. And I gotta say, I like their sprite work. I am not sure whether or not they're using AI for them, though. I believe my friend said that they use AI for the background, but not necessarily the sprites. But I'm not sure. But I gotta say, their sprite work is pretty good. Especially her, whose piercing glare nailed the part. Over half the people passing by couldn't help glancing back at her. She drew the gaze of everyone, regardless of gender, though the boys carried a hint of longing for the opposite sex. The flow of footsteps came to a sudden halt. The sharp-eyed girl didn't miss that moment. With unwavering steps, she crossed the gate and stood before me. She was smaller than I thought. That aggressive scowl of hers probably added a few inches in my mind. She continued looking up at me with that same sullen stare. Without a word, she fixed her gaze on me. I flinched while she didn't even twitch. Was she waiting for something? The silence stretched for so long that I found myself wondering that. Finally, she let out a small sigh, her face tinged with resignation. Her beautiful eyes, once lowered, met mine again, but this time with a newfound gentleness. Oh, they have the animation on the sprite work too, that's kinda nice. Her tone was softer than expected. Before I could respond, she pointed at my green armband. At the word guide sloppily written on it. She wasn't wrong, but that was quite the follow-up for someone she just met. Her gaze turned to the school grounds, toward the familiar slope leading to the school building. In spring, new students would walk along that side path, greeted by cherry blossom. In winter, that same path would become every student's sworn enemy during the marathon. It was a symbol of Yamaoka Academy. They forced students to go on a marathon? Holy shit. In winter? What the fuck? That's brutal. Today, the slope was packed with parents and students from other schools. I'm guessing that's actually not a marathon, but a school track. Because there's no way freaking high school students would want to go to a marathon. Marathon is like 42 kilometers, guys. There's no way. I'm guessing it's just like a track, on the perimeter of the school. There's no way they would do a 42-kilometer marathon for students. She murmured, watching the countless backs fade into the distance. We're in Kanagawa, so that's my name, Aruto. She spun around, her eyes shining with delight. So this is Kanagawa. Is Kanagawa like a more suburban part of Tokyo? I don't know. I thought about it for a bit. Well, I guess they are. Though my follow-up barely made sense even to me, she smiled softly. The fuck? Why aren't we actually talking whether or not that's true? We should know if Kanagawa is in Tokyo or, if it's somewhere else. My response may have worked better than I thought. If you have a destination in mind, then sure. Third year class 1? Is that middle or high school? Yamaoka was an integrated middle and high school, so it had 2 third year grades. She scowled in annoyance. I nodded vaguely. In any case, her destination was Class 3-1 of the high school division. Oddly enough, that was the class of one of my only two friends.
案内して。
As she said, my role was to guide visitors around the school. I guess they choose a guide randomly from the school for new people. I walked up the familiar slope. I could hear her footsteps just behind me. Given that she insisted Kanagawa and Tokyo were the same, she probably wasn't from this prefecture. Yamaoka Private Academy sat near the edge of Kanagawa Prefecture, in a place too urban to be rural, yet too rural to be urban, so kinda smack dab in the middle. It was pretty relaxed for a prep school. It even allowed dyed hairs and piercings. What? If you had those in my fucking school, you'd have been fucking dropped out. What the? That is way too relaxed. The school festival was its signature event, set to be the largest in the prefecture. And today was its second day. The crowd was indeed staggering. The slope was packed only on these 2 days. We arrived at the school building without saying a word. Oh, she might not necessarily be a student, but who knows? The entrance was lined with pamphlets. Want to look at the pamphlets? She said nothing, simply shaking her head. Her hands stayed buried in her pockets. You know, from this angle, she barely has boobs. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie, she barely has fucking boobs. What the fuck? She's like flat as a board. Her eyes darted around restlessly, but found nothing of interest. In the end, her gaze settled on my face.
3年1組何回?
Third. That's usually not my first thing that I notice about the art. But you know, it was just so in your face, like she doesn't have any tits. We climbed the main staircase to the 3rd floor and headed down the West Wing corridor.
6の1 6?
She whispered, glancing up at the sign above the classroom door. It's a combined middle and high school, so the high school grades are called 4th, 5th, and 6th years.
理にかなってる。
She nodded slightly. High school class 3-1 ran a cafe for their festival booth. It was a textbook example of cutting corners at a culture festival, with only the bare minimum of decoration set up. Come to think of it, this class was also where all the sports scholars were gathered. A certain someone crossed my mind, and right then, that very person walked out of class 3-1's classroom.
ハルトじゃん。何その腕章。
A cheerful voice. Eri Tachibana's voice was as lively and bubbly as ever.
見てよこのやる気のない出し物。せっかくの山岡祭なのにさ。
Right then, Tachibana fell into an awkward silence. I gotta say, even though this is not machine translation anymore, it is still pretty stiff, right? It is still pretty stiff translation. I don't mind it though. I am not a native English speaker, so stiff translation actually is fine for me. Her eyes were wide open, fixed on the girl behind me, whom I brought along.
ソリ。なんで？説明しなくてもわかるよね。
Sorry, that was her name, it seemed. I could tell there was some kind of history between them. The girl named Sari showed a glare like a tense, bristling cat. Meanwhile, Tachibana looked visibly flustered. This might have been the first time I'd ever seen Tachibana like that.
喫茶店なんでしょ。お茶くらい飲ませてよ。
What's with the very low BGM right now? She said with a faint smile, one that touched only her lips. Tachibana's gaze turned to me. There was an anxious look in her eyes. The girl, Sari, headed straight for the classroom entrance on her own. She then stopped and turned her gaze to me.
案内してくれたお礼に一杯ご馳走する。アルト君。
With those words, she went inside. Left in the hallway, Tachibana's eyes darted around restlessly. So you two know each other? I asked quietly.
まあ。
Tachibana answered just as quietly. She kept her eyes lowered to the ground at her feet. We both stayed silent for a while, until the girl named Sari poked her head out from the entrance.
何してんの？座ろうよ、エリも。
Tachibana glanced back and nodded to her.
行こう、アルト。紹介する。
Oh, this is awkward. The Class 3-1 cafe was empty, except for us. In my school, we don't really have cultural festivals, by the way. We got like a cup or whatever that does events, but the class don't really run anything by themselves. They'd look for sponsors, and sponsors would actually put their stalls in the cup, you know? It's usually just a cup for sports, right? The stream of people on the slope earlier felt like a lie. The girl went straight to the table at the center of the classroom. Our table was just 4 desks pushed together, with a thin cloth draped over them. I could feel the class's determined effort to avoid any real effort. Tachibana ordered 3 different drinks from her classmates, which made up the cafe's entire menu. Tachibana and I sat side by side, facing her. 3 drinks were brought over, each in a paper cup. The girl, Sari, took the closest paper cup without bothering to see what was inside. Tachibana and I reached for the cups in front of us in the same way. I took a sip and realized it was orange juice. Did they just put orange juice from the freaking convenience store? Sari, or so she was called, gulped down her drink and turned her gaze to Tachibana.
久しぶり。久しぶり。この人が案内してくれた。エリの知り合い？
Tachibana glanced at me and nodded.
そう、モズミアルト。よろしく、モズミアルト君。
The girl wore a forced smile as she said that.
アルト、こちらはアマネサリ。私の幼なじみ。
Mane-san.
そう。天の音って書いてアマネさん。
Mane-san smiled faintly.
音楽家になりそうな名前でしょ。
It really does. The conversation stopped there. What an awkward, like, you know, trio this is. Though Tachibana said they were childhood friends, their relationship didn't seem like anything so warm.
帰ってきてたんだ。印象変わったね、サリー。
Tachibana's tone was stiff as she spoke.
怒ってるから。
Amane-san's lips curved into a distinct smile. That smile only helped emphasize her anger even more.
エリが言ってくれれば大丈夫だと思ってた。この言葉の意味わかるでしょ。
Tachibana lowered her eyes and went silent. Amane-san thrust her right hand toward Tachibana. Raising her index, middle, and ring fingers, they were all long, slender, and beautiful.
3年間。エリがこの学校に来てから3年間あったんだよ。
You know, the weird thing is I'm actually here too. I feel like this isn't really a conversation that I should be listening on. Tachibana said nothing, her downcast eyes wandering elsewhere. Amane-san stared at Tachibana for a while, then suddenly turned to face me. I sensed a certain weight in her eyes and ended up reaching out toward the cup in front of me.
2人は付き合ってるの？
Her question came out of nowhere. I shifted my gaze from Amane-san to Tachibana, sneaking a look at her expression. I too was curious about how Tachibana would respond. Tachibana and I sometimes went to school together. If our schedules matched, we also went home together. Tachibana was known throughout the entire country's high school karate scene. And of course, every single student at school knew who she was. Karate, huh? Since I was unusually close to her, people around us often mistakenly assumed I was her boyfriend. But even after all this time, we never went through the whole confession thing. As for what our relationship was, or what Tachibana thought of it, I had no idea. I tried asking her before, but she dodged the question. I wondered how she'd answer Amane-san. We both fixed our eyes on Tachibana.
付き合ってはないよ。
Tachibana smiled softly as she answered. Her answer was exactly what I had expected. I went along and nodded at Amane-san in affirmation. Amane-san nodded, but she clearly wasn't convinced. I found myself thinking back to the day Tachibana said something similar. Back to the place where we first spoke. Back to the place where she could return to her weaker self. On that day too, Tachibana smiled and said the same thing. So we already have like a pre-established... Like we already have a pre-established story here. Because we were already like doing flashbacks and shit. That was September 2 years ago. Hearing her give the same answer brought me a mix of relief and disappointment. So this was back when we were first years. There was no way a shining embodiment of youth like Tachibana could ever be into me. In fact, there was no way anyone could ever be into me. And I clearly knew why. And that reason is... Amane-san's words snapped me back to reality. She fixed her gaze on Tachibana.
いいよね。3年間エリに任せたんだから。任せたっていうかさ、サリー勝手にいなくなったんだよね。誰にも言わないでさ。エリから見ればそうだったのかも。任せたんじゃなくて投げ出したって言うんじゃないの？すれ違いだね。エリがいれば大丈夫だと思った。でもそうでもなかったみたい。何この状況。これが正しい状況だと思ってる？このままでいいってエリは本当にそう思ってるの？
Man, I don't even know what the hell they were talking about, sorry.
急に現れたのに詳しいんだ。うん、調べ上げたから。私は今を良しとはしない。調べ上げたってどうやって？何を？どこまで？全部、あらゆる手段を使って。サリー、ちょっと異常だよそれ。分かってるよ。自分でも分かってる。でもじゃあ事情に詳しいみたいだから言うけどさ、素人が出しゃばっていい状況でもなくない？静観するしかなくない？そうやって腫れ物に触れるみたいに中途半端に優しくし続けるの。
I think Chutohampa is like half-hearted, right? Being half-hearted. I don't think it has anything to do with lip service, but I guess maybe it's an okay
それ
translation.
が本人にとってどれだけ辛いか分かってる？そもそも学校卒業したらどうするの？サリなら何かできるって？できる。やる。そのために来たんだもん。
The rapid back and forth cut off there. The unseen ball had probably rolled at Tachibana's feet. Tachibana let out a small sigh.
なんでそこまですんの？急に現れてさ。私今でも同じ気持ちのままだから。それが理由。
A second ball had rolled at Tachibana's feet.
ずるいよ、サリは。
Tachibana said quietly, her eyes still lowered. Her voice was so faint it seemed ready to fade away. Amane-san took out her smartphone. She quickly slipped it back into her pocket and got to her feet. Maybe she was just checking the time.
ごちそうさま。用は済んだ。アルト君、せっかくだから他のところも案内してよ。
Huh? After being made to sit through that mess, I'm the one stuck taking Amane-san with me? As I flinched, Tachibana lifted her head and flashed me a bright smile.
案内してあげて。田舎者だから、サリ。それ諸刃の剣、幼なじみなんだから。
The two shared a faint smile. Amane-san gazed down at me.
安心してアルト君。私とエリって信じられないくらい仲いいから。じゃれ合ってるだけ。
Yeah, doesn't seem like that to me.
まあ、そうだね。それは否定しないよ。エリの大事な幼なじみだから、私。よろしくね、アルト君。
For some reason, I found myself picturing two ferocious beasts biting at each other. To everyone else, it might have looked like a serious fight, but since they said so themselves, they were probably just messing around. In fact, Tachibana had already returned to her usual cheerful self. I don't know about that. I parted ways with Tachibana in front of the classroom and went around a festival with Amane-san. So, this is weird. Really? They have a guide for the festival like this? Why did I have a guide? Why not just, let people just move around by themselves? A school festival with a girl I just met. The idea alone carried a bittersweet tinge. But at that moment, nothing of the sort hung between us. It felt neither bitter nor sweet. All that lingered was the middling aftertaste of orange juice on my tongue. We took a leisurely stroll through the hustle and bustle.
アルト君って呼んでいいでしょ?
She asked, looking up at me. I nodded as we walked. What exactly is your relationship with Tachibana?
大親友.
Besties. She answered with a straight face. Was that supposed to be a joke? Or was that argument earlier their way of showing affection? Are you telling me those so-called girls' nights out are actually that brutal?
エリが付き合ってないって答えた時さ、
She looked up at me with a cocky smile.
すごい呆然としてたね。
No, I didn't.
そう？あからさまにがっかりしてたよ。
That mischievous glint in her eyes probably wasn't going anywhere anytime soon. I sighed, irritated that she'd hit the bullseye. Tachibana would never go for a guy like me. I know that all too well.
何それ?
Oh, sorry about that. Does this game not have that, choice or that convict where I don't think so. When I click and then the sound still plays. I don't think it does. There we go. Skip voice on click off. Thank you. I saw it and I didn't click off on it. My bad, sorry. If there's an attraction you're interested in, I'll take you there. That's as far as my job as a guide goes.
質問に答えてよ。どういう意味なの？なんでエリがアルト君を好きにならないって思うの？何かあったの？
Nothing. That's just how it is. Now you answer mine. If there's an attraction you're interested in, I'll show you there. If not, we part ways here.
ある。体育館。
The gym?
どこの学園祭だってそれなりに気合いの入った展示してるでしょ？ねえ、エリがアルト君を好きにならない理由って何？
You're not gonna let me off the hook, are you? I ignored Amane-san's question and started heading to the gym.
聞こえてるでしょ？
I could hear her voice from behind.
ねえってば。
She grabbed my arm.
どうして僕なんかなんて言うの？なんかって何？
How about I ask you instead, Amane-san? Why are you so interested in a complete stranger you only met today? Once I show you to the gym, we'll probably never see each other again. She shook her head.
二つ間違ってる。私にとってあなたは何も知らない相手じゃない。
Yeah, because I'm your friend's friend, right?
もう一つ。私たちはまた会うことになる。
Because you're gonna transfer here, I guess? A clear sense of doubt welled up inside me and showed on my face, which only fueled her smile.
アルト君って何考えてるか顔にすぐ出るね。
I'm pretty sure we've never met though.
過去にはね。
Or so she said.
でも私にはあなたと過ごした記憶がある。だからあなたのことを知っている。
What? You have memories of being with me, you mean right now? Or what? What is going on? Forcing an exaggerated fake smile, I turned my back on her and started walking. I'll just take her to the gym and be done with it. She seems like the type of person I shouldn't get involved with. Exactly, Aruto. Smart. Thank you.
アルト君には弟がいる。年齢は8歳。名前は時雄。
I stopped in my tracks. I turned around only to find Amane-san smiling at me with full confidence. Did you hear that from Tachibana?
そんな関係に見えた？仲良くアルト君の世間話するような。
Then where did you hear that from? Amane-san ignored my question and walked past me as I stood still. Earlier, she mentioned her surname sounded like it belonged to a musician. So that's how it was. Do you play the piano too, Amane-san? I followed after her, asking Amane-san as she kept her back to me.
さあね。
Oh, I guess I'm pretty popular in the musical world. She spoke without a trace of emotion. But yeah, as you can see, guys, I have absolutely no idea what the hell is going on in this game. Because I didn't even read the synopsis. So when you said you'd looked everything up, you were talking about me.
どうだろう。でもアルト君が思ってるより、私はあなたのことをよく知ってる。アルト君すら知らない未来のことも。
You're lying. I made sure not to let any emotions seep into my voice. What could you possibly know about me? What could you know about me that even I don't know? Yeah, that's, I really dislike it when people say that too about me. When people say that they know more about me than I do myself. That's a lie. That's a lie. I refuse to believe it. How do you know more about me? There's no way. Who could possibly claim to know me when I don't even have a definite past?
まあいい。それは順を追って伝える。そのために来たから。
I don't have a definite past? Does that mean we have amnesia? Is it amnesia or are we like orphans or something? I thought about her words. That's why she came here. To tell me something. Huh. So was she mad at Tachibana because she left us in her care? Amane-san, you came here for me. She stopped and looked back at me.
そう。モズミアルト君。私はあなたに会いにここまで来たの。
A pair of unwavering eyes looked up at me. Amid the bustle of the school festival, only between us did silence flow. Then, I suddenly felt a strange sensation in my hands. I dropped my gaze to them. All 10 fingers were moving in small, precise motions. Seeing that, I realized the sounds between us was an illusion. Somewhere, the sound of a piano was playing. It had simply failed to register in my mind. I slowly clenched my fists. Those unwanted motions gradually came to a stop. When I turned back to Amane-san, she was still looking at me with the same serious look.
どうしたの？
It's nothing. Without a word, we simply gazed at each other for a while. Eventually, she let out a soft breath, a smile forming on her lips.
体育館、どこ？
Through the second floor. At my reply, Amane-san descended the main staircase with sure steps, heading for the gym via the second floor. I could hear loud cheers even from outside. Whatever was happening inside seemed to be a big hit. A voice was whipping up the crowd. I secretly breathed a sigh of relief that it had nothing to do with music.
盛り上がってるね。エリのところと大違い。
Her voice held a hint of cheer. She walked up to the gym entrance and turned to face me.
アルト君、あなたはきっと私の言うことを信じない。だから、先に見せる。
What is going on, dude? You're creeping me out, sorry. Show me what exactly? I met Amane-san's gaze and asked her. She ignored my question, turning her back to me as she entered the gym. The source of the excitement turned out to be a bingo tournament run by the school festival committee. A male student who seemed to be part of the festival committee was riling up the crowd, drawing loud, booming cheers in response.
Oh, Arto!
You're wearing a, what do you call those, a happy? Right after entering the venue, I saw a strangely dressed male student standing at a makeshift reception desk. He was wearing a festival committee happy. Yeah, there we go. A happy it is. Happy code over a karate gi. That's his name? Anji? It seems like more of a girl's name. Anji, what the heck are you doing?
何ってビンゴ大会の受付だよ。ほれ。
He gave me a handmade bingo card printed on cardstock, along with a red pen. It was a simple bingo card with boxes and numbers written on cardstock. What the heck's a cardstock? Jiro Ando, also known as Anji. He looked every bit Japanese. Aside from his nickname, there was nothing Western about him. If humanity had a catalog, you could slot him straight into the Japanese section as its representative. Yet everyone in our grade calls him Anji. Somehow, the nickname had stuck before we knew it. The karate gi was because he was in a karate club, and the happy coat because he was the festival committee chair. He was also the guy who shoved that green armband with "guide" mistily scrawled on it into my hands.
ちょうど始まるところだ。参加してけよ。
With Anji's somewhat pushy guidance, I found myself standing at the rear of the venue alongside Amane-san. Up on stage, the bingo machine clattered away.
これが当たる。
Amane-san gave her bingo card a little wave as she looked up at me. What?
このカードが最初にビンゴになる。
A number was called out on stage, and it was definitely on her bingo card. But I had it on my card as well. Cheerful voices rang out across the venue. It's a hit! Me too, me too.
信じてないでしょ。
Well, I guess. Was this what she meant? Was she trying to lighten the mood by showing me a magic trick? Or was she simply poking fun at me? I couldn't read her intentions at all.
人の記憶なんて曖昧なものでしょ。
Amane-san mused as she stared vacantly at the stage. The second number was called. This time, only I got closer to bingo. My card had 2 red circles, while hers had 1. She murmured in a flat tone, her expression unchanged.
例えば10年前の今日、8歳の時、自分が何をしていたか。
When I was 8 years ago? Today? Of course not. I mean, memories are pretty vague if you think about it, but pivotal things in our life, we definitely remember them though, right?
その日は晴れていたか、雨が降っていたか、そんなことは覚えてないでしょ。アルト君覚えてる？
Yeah, we don't. No, I don't anyway. I don't. The bingo machine spat out balls one after another. The card was getting more and more red circles. After the 10th call or so, the crowd began shouting with playful frustration at how close they were.
私もそう。すべてのことを覚えてるわけじゃないの。断片的で曖昧な記憶もある。でも、印象的な出来事なら覚えてる。例えば。
The event staff on stage called out the next number. With a smile, Amane-san marked the number and held her bingo card next to her face. A straight vertical line of red circles ran down her card.
初めて行った学校のビンゴ大会で真っ先にビンゴになったこととか。
Why would you remember this? This is pretty inconsequential. A chorus of damn. It's erupted from the crowd. A chorus of damn? What the fuck does that even mean? Well, this is a weird sentence. How'd you do that? Was it a coincidence?
どっちでもない。私はただ知ってたの。
So you're like the girl who left from time? But why are you here for me then? Am I like your boyfriend in the future? She held out her card to me. I took it and stared in disbelief. It had 8 red circles. Only the called numbers were marked. There was no foul play involved. When you said you'd show me, did you mean this?
そう。信じてくれる？
I lifted my gaze from the bingo card. Amane-san met my eyes head on.
私には未来の記憶があるの。
Oh wow, that was a really fast prologue. You know, Aruto, you don't look happy when you're playing the piano. Is that my hand? Is that why I stopped doing the piano? Well, I got another achievement. Chapter 1. I guess there's like 4 chapters in the game because I'm taking a look at Steam and there's only 6 achievements in the game. So I assume it's like complete chapter 1, 2, 3, 4. We traded the voucher for 2 gyoza dogs. Gyoza dogs? Gyoza dogs? Hot dogs with gyoza inside? What? That's so weird. It was a specialty from the butcher shop that takes part in the school festival every year. Sold for 600 yen each. The price for the bingo tournament was 1200 yen in food stall vouchers. The oddly specific price sum carried a message as loaded as it was blunt. Buy 2 gyoza dogs. Leaving the lively bingo tournament behind, we sat side by side on the outdoor steps, biting into our gyoza dogs.
見た目よりイケてる。発明だねこれは。
Oh, it's like a gyoza outside and then there's a wiener inside. Okay. It's not as weird as I initially thought. I thought it was a hot dog like bun with gyozas inside. Okay, it's the other way around. Amani-san said, admiring the one she just bitten into. I gave vague, non-committal responses as I pondered what she had meant back in the gym. I have memories of the future. Did Amani-san know what was going to happen today from the very start? Like meeting me at the school gate, or the tense exchange in Tachibana's classroom. She watched my expression as I bit into my gyoza dog, lost in thought. She smiled faintly.
聞きたいことがたくさんありそう。そういう顔してる。
I turned to face her. Was that also a future memory?
そんな深刻そうな顔されたら誰にでもわかるよ。
Amane-san giggled as she said that. I shoved the rest of the gyoza dog into my mouth and crumpled the wrapper. You know the future, and the reason you spoke to me at the school gate is because in the future, we're already acquainted. Is that it?
そう。
And in the future, you know, I'm there too.
Yes.
She was calmly chewing on her gyoza dog. Her left hand still tucked in her pocket. So basically, you can predict the future, like a prophecy or something.
限定的だけどね。さっきも言ったけど、記憶なんて曖昧だし。未来が見えるんじゃなくて、記憶があるだけだから。
Then what was so memorable in that future then? What's the point of meeting with me? Am I someone significant in that future? I don't really see the difference.
未来が見えるって例えば、アルト君が餃子ドッグを脅す光景がバッと浮かぶとか、そういうことでしょ。フラッシュバックの未来版みたいな。
Yeah, I get it. Now that was an example I could easily relate to. My past was unsteady and uncertain. Every so often, it would resurface, piercing my mind. Sometimes it was the long stairway leading up to the neighborhood temple. Other times, it was the coastline with Enoshima in view. Memories of my mother, my younger brother, and my father, back when he was still alive, flashed through my mind. So my mom and my younger brother are still alive, but my dad's dead.
そうじゃなくて、私には断片的な映像の記憶がある。過去の記憶と明確な違いはないけど、そこにいる友達も自分も今より年上なのはわかる。
Then what's the point of following those steps? Following, your future memories.
多分20代の後半、30歳にはなってない気がする。
That's pretty vague.
だってアルト君、例えばあの人たちの年齢わかる？
She pointed to a group of teens in casual clothes who were laughing and chatting away. They were probably from another school. Otherwise, they had been in uniforms. Around our age, or maybe a little younger.
10代の中盤から後半くらいって答えるしかないでしょ。
Makes sense. So does she not hear the future memories? She only sees them as images. So she has to interpret those images herself instead of knowing what the actual memories are about. I turned my gaze back to her. When did you start having those memories?
さあ、わからない。過去の記憶の中に未来の記憶がいつの間にか混ざってた。
I'm guessing it's also quite severe then, which is why you're trying to catch up to those future memories instead of doing something yourself.
アルト君の未来のことも少し知ってる。聞きたい？
No. She looked straight at me with a cocky smile, then went on without waiting for my answer.
ピアノ。
That single word rang in my ears. What did you say?
ピアノ弾いてるよ、未来のアルト君。
Why are you telling me this? I smiled faintly in response to her words, then shook my head. You must have seen my little brother.
間違えてない。私がアルト君と誰かを間違えることなんてない。
And why is that? That's impossible.
どうして？
I've got a legitimate reason.
どんな理由？
One that's more credible than your future memories. I couldn't hear the sound of the piano. How was I supposed to play it at all? I mean, sometimes you don't need to listen to the sound of the piano, like Aruto. I'm not gonna lie, sometimes, when you're just doing through the motions, you can still make music. You can't enjoy music, but you can still make music for other people. Hitting random keys doesn't exactly count as playing. Why was it that I couldn't hear the piano when I could hear everything else just fine? Even if I never learned why, could I still find a way to hear it again? I tried all sorts of things. I'd faced this problem head on. But I couldn't find even the slightest hint of a solution. One thing's for sure, I'm never going to play the piano. She let out a dissatisfied hum. She propped her chin on her hand, resting her elbow on her crossed legs, and idly gazed at the stream of people drifting by.
その理由はアルト君自身の記憶の中にあるんだよね。
I thought for a moment, then nodded. Every reason in this world can be found in someone's memories. After all, a person's past shapes who they become. Whether a person grows to like or despise someone all comes down to the sum of their past. That's true. As someone with no certain past, I knew that all too well. In short, I could only answer her question with a yes, and that's exactly what I told her. Amane-san stared at me for a while before finally speaking.
でも理由は言いたくない。そういうこと？
Tell you why about what? About the piano? I nodded. Like I said earlier, it'd be weirder if I told you everything when we've only just met. An awkward silence hung between us. Amane-san stuffed the rest of her gyoza dog into her mouth in one bite. The sound of her munching away continued for a while.
気に入らない。
She said softly, then turned her gaze back to me. I noticed this in this game in particular, but the conversations are actually very sparse. That's probably why the game is short. It's probably because there's a lot of monologue instead of actual conversation and dialogue.
私はアルト君の人生を前に進めるためにここまで来た。
And what do you mean by that?
私の未来の記憶を信じて自分の過去と向き合ってもらうために。
Who are you that you want to do that for me? My past.
なのにアルト君はまだ私の未来の記憶を信じてない。私に隠し事をするのは諦めた方がいいよ。アルト君は自分の過去を疑ってる。この世の誰よりも。そうでしょう。
She gazed straight at me. I gazed back at her. What could you possibly know about me?
少なくとも現実から中途半端に逃げ回ってるアルト君よりはわかる。
Because of your future memories. I said with a scoff. Amane-san shot me a glare as she spoke.
未練があるんでしょう。音楽とピアノに。
No, I don't.
嘘。
I'm telling the truth. It wasn't anything so grand as to be called something like that. I couldn't even pin down what this smoldering frustration toward the piano really was. It would have been so much easier if I could just call it regret. I could have just lived on, loathing the piano, along with my younger brother and father, who were geniuses at it. But I couldn't even do that. My memories from when I was a child. Back when I grew up as nothing more than a bystander to Tokyo, the piano prodigy. I felt a strange distance from that past of mine, as if I were watching a recording of someone else's life. I wondered, when did I stop hearing the sound of the piano? Did my father know, back when he was still alive? And if so, how did he look at me? How did I feel when I learned my younger brother had a gift for the piano? Those important memories were all missing from my past, to the point that even I myself found it strange. Why not ask your mom? Why not ask your brother? Why not ask people who are still alive that knows about your past? And its key probably lay in the sound of the piano I could no longer hear. I set my gaze on Amane-san. She gave me a strange look, halfway between pity and exasperation. Just how much did she, Amane-san, know? We'd only met today. How did she even know in the first place? Did she really have memories of the future? As I stayed silent, Amane-san crumpled the gyoza dog wrapper, shoved it into her right pocket and stood up.
連絡先教えて。
She took out her smartphone from the same pocket where she stuffed the trash, fiddled with it, and held the screen out to me. It displayed a QR code for her messaging app. My eyes went back and forth between the screen and her face above me, before I finally spoke. Mine?
何その質問。バカなの。
That was a bit uncalled for, but all things considered, she wasn't wrong.
私の知っている未来にアルト君を連れて行く。絶対に。
What for? What's in it for you? Why go to all this length for me? She continued to stand there, gazing down at me with her smartphone held out.
私が知ってるのはアルト君の未来。私が一緒にいれば過去に怯える必要はない。
You're a random stranger to me, Amane.
だって私は知ってるから。あなたがまたピアノを弾くことを。
Her gaze was so strong it gripped both me and my mind, refusing to let go. Could she really change me? Could she really give shape to a past so blurred it was ready to vanish into mist?
アルト君の夏、ひと夏だけ私に預けてほしい。だから連絡先を教えて。
I scanned the QR code she held out to me. Once Amane-san saw her contact info had been exchanged, she slipped her smartphone back into her pocket. Her default stance seemed to be having both hands in her pockets. Give you my summer? What exactly am I supposed to do?
私の指定する場所に来て私の言う通りにしてくれればいい。
And that'll mean coming to terms with my past? She gave a small but firm nod.
夏休みが始まったら長野に来て。
Nagano? I echoed the name of that place, my mouth hung open in a daze. Amane-san nodded again. For the whole summer?
そう。
I can't. I have my own life too. No matter how you look at it, that's just not happening.
なんでよ、夏休みでしょ。ハルト君はまだ進路も決めてない。受験勉強に追われてもいない。違う？
That's because I'm torn between going to college and getting a job. I'll be busy working all summer, and besides, how was I supposed to explain this to Mom? While I was looking for the right words, I heard Amane-san let out a faint laugh.
大丈夫。お母さんも送り出してくれる。ハルト君は長野に来ることになる。
I must be someone whose face is really easily read. She just knows what the hell I'm thinking about.
そしてそこで自分の過去と向き合える。
Is that another prophecy?
そう思ってくれていい。
God damn it, I see you, fucking mosquito. You're not gonna take my blood, bitch.
細かいことはまた連絡する。夏休み、バイトのシフトを断っておいて。大丈夫。
God damn it, I missed. I missed. Damn it, that bastard. Hey, wait.
じゃ、
Before I could finish, she had already turned her back to me and started walking away. Amane-san vanished from sight. It was like a mighty storm had passed. One that had come and ravaged the daily life I'd grown familiar with, only to move on. Was I really going to Nagano? To uncover my past with a girl I'd only met today? It was sheer madness. All three of the part-time jobs I juggled were no doubt counting on me for the busy summer season. It was my chance to earn big. And yet, was I really going to throw everything aside? Put my faith in her cryptic words about future memories and go to Nagano? As I rested my chin on my head, lost in thought, a green armband entered my blurred vision. It was the crude armband Angie had thrown together. The handwriting really was terrible. As I stared at the letters, the chime rang. With it came the end of the 2-day school festival. I took off the armband and stood up. The festival committee's HQ was on the 4th floor of the main building, in the open area facing the main staircase. Where's the chairman? In response, a girl in a committee happy coat pointed to the balcony. There, I saw the back of someone in a white karate gi. With a small bow of thanks, I slid open the door to the balcony. Angie. As Angie turned toward me, Tachibana's face came into view over his shoulder.
アルト
Angie and Tachibana's voices were in perfect sync. Are you in the middle of something? I can wait inside.
いや大丈夫だちょっと部活の話をしてた
The festival is only on until 4, right? I'm giving this back. I shoved the armband at Angie.
ああ悪い悪い助かったわ
Tachibana peeked out from behind him.
何それ？
アルトにな案内役頼んでたんだ暇そうだから
はあ？なんでよ。実行委員の仕事でしょそれ。
いやまあ人手が足りなくて
Do we even need guides in... Like I said, do we even need guides in like a culture festival? They can just go on by themselves. Just give them a pamphlet. You know, give them a map of what's what.
どこがよ。遊んでるじゃん。
Tachibana shifted her gaze from the window to HQ. 3 idle committee members were lounging around the reception desk.
やっと落ち着いたんだよさっきまで全員出ずっぱりだったんだから
Angie said, trying to smooth things over. It's probably true. The festival committee always seemed to be busy and on the move every year.
ありがとな助かったよ
Angie held up the armband as he said that. Tachibana, can I talk to you for a second? The fourth floor had two small rooftops on either side of the main staircase. The crowd of visitors who came for the school festival had thinned out. This is a big-ass school if that's how it looked like from this spot. Because look at the amount of empty fields there, god damn. Amane-san left already. Was that really okay? You never got to talk to her alone. An awkward smile crossed Tachibana's face. You said you were childhood friends, right? What's she like?
気になるの?
As I was thinking of how to respond, Tachibana let out a soft chuckle.
まあ、可愛いもんね、サリ。でも、どういう人って難しいな。アルトはどういう印象だったの?
A weirdo? I was more interested in your relationship than in my impression of her. I was surprised at how confrontational she was with you right off the bat.
わざとだろうな。
Her tone implied something deeper. What were you even talking about? I couldn't make heads or tails of who you two meant.
説明が難しいんだよ。
A wry smile crossed her face.
まあ、それはいいから。あの後二人で学園祭回ったんでしょ? どういう印象だった? サリ。
A weirdo, as I said. Her words made me think back to Amane-san. When we first met, her piercing gaze and razor-sharp words. And then her future memories. A person's impression is nothing but a mass of scattered, inconsequential details strung together. Her face was almost unnervingly perfect. Men and women alike couldn't help but give her a second glance. But her looks alone couldn't make up for the sheer force of her personality. She's kind of mysterious, I guess. I chose my words carefully as I spoke.
不思議? サリが? なんでよ。そんなことないと思うけど。
Are you too close?
長い付き合いだよ。私はサリが好き。
It almost sounded like she was trying to convince herself. You said you were childhood friends. Does that mean you're from Nagano too?
そう、長野。たくさん神社のある観光地。湖があって割と森。
Plenty of trees. Those trees would likely remain long after we were both gone. Nature's own memento mori. What happened between you two? Something had to have happened for things to get that tense.
ちょっとね。
You know, I've never really thought about trees as nature's own memento mori, but I guess that's fair enough. Some trees can actually live upwards to a couple of 100 years, right? Tachibana gazed down at the stream of people spilling out of the school building. Her gaze never met mine.
きっとサリが話すよ。そのために来たんだと思う。サリは。
Tell me what? Something have to happen. Oh, what happened between you two, I say. I furrowed my brow. Now even Tachibana was starting to say weird things. Amane-san came here to see me. Is that what you think too, Tachibana?
そうだよ。
Tachibana said flatly, then stretched her arms wide.
もういい? そろそろ戻らないと。撤収作業始まってるし。
So were you the one that was supposed to make me go back to piano? But you refused and then, you know, Amane had to come here? It's so weird calling her sorry. You know, because they call her Sally, right? But there's no L in Japanese, so that's why it's Sari. Hold on, she told me to come to Nagano. Tachibana froze up. She looked at me, eyes wide open.
サリが長野に来いって?
I nodded. She said she wanted me to give her my summer. A flicker of uncertainty crossed Tachibana's eyes. She said it's already decided that I'm going to Nagano. Tachibana tilted her head.
決まってる? どういう意味?
Her reaction told me everything. Tachibana hadn't heard anything about those future memories. I still didn't understand the nature of their relationship, let alone why Amane-san would tell me and not her childhood friend.
どうするの？行くの？
I don't think I can. I've got my family and work to focus on.
そうだよね。じゃあ断った？
No. No, I missed my chance. I'll contact her later.
連絡先交換したんだ。
More like she kind of forced me to. I nodded. She said she'd send me the details about Nagano.
そっか。
She lowered her gaze, nodding lightly a few times, then raised it back up.
アルトも教室戻るでしょ？私もそろそろ行く。
She turned her back to me and headed back into the school building. Watching her go, I found myself thinking about Nagano. How far was Nagano from Kanagawa? Would I take the train or the bus? It was a place I had no ties to whatsoever. If Tachibana was right, and Amane-san had come all the way that way just to see me, then I had to be wrong about it being our first meeting. Unless she really did have future memories. The past I knew, and the future Amane-san knew. Which of them was the uncertain one? I don't know. I mean, I just got put here into your shoes, Aruto. I don't know anything about you. I know Jack Squat. I know Jack Squat about Amane too, so you both are, you know, I'm as confused as you are. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? When I got back to my class, they were already packing up. While it wasn't as bad as Tachibana's class, we hadn't really put much effort into our attraction either. Ours was a self-made film that would probably end up as a permanent entry in the Cass's personal hall of shame. It was a parody of an episodic drama series that had aired way back. Out of the entire class, the number of people who did any real heavy lifting was in the single digits, and they alone radiated a refreshing sense of accomplishment. Thanks to their touching, painstaking efforts, the cleanup on the event day itself had been streamlined to a bare minimum. All we had to do was put the classroom TV back where it belonged, take down the blackout curtains, and return the chairs to their original arrangement. By the time I set out for the nearest station, the sky was dyed crimson. When was the last time I took a weekend off? I hadn't even taken one during last year's school festival week. Back then, the cleanup took longer than expected, so I had to leave halfway. Not only did I sour the mood in class, but I even ended up late for my part-time job. Having learned my lesson, I took the day off this year. But if I'd known I could get home this early, I'd have signed up for a late shift instead. On weekends, restaurants get so busy that the hours fly by. They were angry at me because I left for a fucking part-time job? What the fuck, dude? I need to get some money somehow. What the hell? Yo, some friends you got, Arto. I took 2 trains to get home. It was further from the city center than my school, but in exchange, the station was closer to home. My home was on the 3rd floor of an apartment building, just a 5-minute walk away. I'm back. Oh, this is my brother? He was the one that had the the unhappy look playing the piano. What the fuck? He doesn't look happy at all. When I entered the living room, I caught sight of Tokyo's profile as he gazed down at the piano keys. There was no trace of the childlike innocence one would expect from an 8-year-old. Even to an onlooker, it was clear that every bit of his focus was concentrated on his fingertips. He was the very picture of concentration. Watching my little brother, I understood all too well what a genius in a particular field was like. With someone like that so close, I could never harbor any hope of being the same. We were simply born running on different engines.
あ、おかえり兄ちゃん。
Noticing me, Tokyo stopped playing. Sorry. Whenever I came home, Tokyo would stop practicing or switch to headphones. Tokyo knew the sound of the piano weighed on me. It looked like he was going to wrap up for today. I thought I couldn't hear the sound of the piano. They're messing this up. I thought I couldn't hear the piano. What do you mean? It was a gray area whether we were allowed to play instruments in the apartment building, but every now and then I'd hear the faint sound of a piano coming from another room. I thought I couldn't hear the piano. What? Game. What is going on? I could tell by the way my fingers would move every so often. It was probably an electronic piano like ours. A bit of noise like that was just something we all had to live with. Tokyo stepped away from the piano and hurried over. Mom's working night shift again today.
Hi.
Tokyo ran off toward our shared room. Big bro's taking a bath first, okay?
Hi, hi.
After taking a shower and changing into my loungewear, I headed to the kitchen and lined up some frozen gyoza in the frying pan. I poured in some water, covered the pan, and turned on the heat. As I looked down at the glass lid clouding over, I thought about Imani-san, whom I'd met today. It had only been a few hours since she popped out of nowhere, yet I couldn't stop thinking about her.
何作ってるの?
Before I knew it, Tokyo was beside me, peeking at what I was doing. It's gyoza.
兄ちゃん餃子好きだね。
They're pretty good. Come to think of it, I just had a gyoza dog at the school festival. That wasn't even a gyoza! That wasn't gyoza, damn it! It had gyoza wrapper but fucking hot dog inside. Well, yeah, I'm more of a gyoza guy than a shumai guy, that's for sure. I'm more of a shumai guy.
僕も
Better make plenty or we'll end up fighting over them. I cooked a big batch of rice ahead of time and froze it in portions. Gyoza, white rice, and instant miso soup. It was nothing fancy, but for a high schooler's weekend dinner, it was passable. When I sat down at the table, Tokyo sat across from me. Today was our school festival.
学園祭って何?
A festival.
お祭り?
Tokyo's eyes lit up.
鎌倉のでっかいお寺がやってるようなやつ?
Not on that scale, obviously. But it was pretty elaborate for a school festival.
花火上がった?
Nope. Nah. I smiled as I answered. And another thing, Tokyo. The big one in Kamakura is a shrine, not a temple. Well, we have a lot of near our place are temples.
何が違うの?
Let's see. I don't know, actually. I thought for a moment, then pointed at the gyoza on the big plate. They're probably like gyoza and shumai. Similar, but different. What? Shumai and gyoza are two different things altogether. What? They're different. Tokyo's eyes opened wide.
全然違うじゃん.
Yeah, what the fuck? What? I managed to get the point across at least. The fuck? Then that means that this shrine and temple are very different then. I went back to my room, grabbed the charging cable next to my pillow, and plugged it in my smartphone. It's a very nice room. As I lay down and looked up at the ceiling, my smartphone buzzed. It was a message from Imani-san. Got you some work for the summer. Pay should be decent. Before I even realized it, I was already sitting up. To her, my trip to Nagano was probably already a done deal. I took my time writing my reply before sending it. I can't make it to Nagano. I have my family to think about, and I can't take time off work right away. Sorry. The moment I hit send, the red icon appeared, and a reply came right away. It's June. There's still more than a month until summer break. You're a third year at a prep school, so it wouldn't be strange if you were buried in exam prep. If you tell your workplace now, I don't think it'll cause any trouble. I sighed. Maybe this girl was just doing whatever she wanted. That seemed far easier to believe. I was starting to doubt her so-called future memories. As I was still thinking of a reply, another message came in. Don't worry about your family. Tokyo-kun's been invited to an international competition in the Yeah, I think it's Czech Republic, right? That's how you say it, Czech. And can only bring one companion. Your mom might hesitate a bit, but once she finds out you're going to Nagano, she'll make up her mind. My eyes flung wide open. Think of it as a prophecy. The next day, I woke to my 5 o'clock alarm. By this time of year, the sky outside was already starting to brighten. I dragged my sluggish body upright. Hey, he wakes up at 5 o'clock just like I do. But I guess that's pretty common for, high schoolers. I mean, people who still go to school in general. Because, like I said, I don't know what time it is that people go to school in Japan and every other part of the country. But in my school, back when I was still in school, I was already in school at 6 a.m. sharp. Because 6:45 is when we would do our morning prayer. We call it like our morning devotion or whatever because I go to a Christian school. I brushed my teeth in the washroom and gave my hair a quick fix. Since I'd be wearing a cap at work anyway, I only bothered to straighten out the worst of my bedhead. Mom's shoes were lined up at the entryway. She must have just gotten back from her night shift. I got dressed quietly so I wouldn't wake Mom, then slipped out of the house. The closest station was Kita Kamakura, but Kamakura Station was still within walking distance, and beyond it lay a mountain of job opportunities. In the early morning hours, even on weekdays, one could start earning money right off the bat. Tokyo was a genius, and nurturing talent took money. I doubted whether the invitation to the Czech Republic that Amane-san mentioned in her message was real. But there was no doubt he would be getting more opportunities like that in the near future. That's why I've been putting my part-time wages into Tokyo's bank account. Man, we're doing so much for our family. My morning shift ran from 5:30 to 7:30. If I worked until 8, I'd be at least 10 minutes late for school, no matter how fast I move. Yeah, look at that. Look at that. School is actually at 8 o'clock in Japan. He's working from 5:30 to 7:30. God damn. Holy shit, dude. This guy's a monster. This guy's a beast. He's a machine. It was a special shift the manager had set up especially for me. For these 2 hours, I did nothing but make burgers, wrap them, and press buttons. The pay was 1,200 yen an hour. That was 2,400 yen for 2 hours, or 12,000 yen for a 5-day week. I made my 2,400 yen, and it was now 7:30. Even after finishing my first shift and getting home, the house was still silent. The sliding doors to the tatami room that Mom used were shut. In the empty living room, I switched on Tokyo's electric piano and pressed its white keys. As expected, no sound reached me again today. But what about yesterday? Yesterday you said that when Tokyo was playing the piano, it bugged you. I guess it bugged him because Tokyo is playing and then we can't hear it. It's not actually the sound. It's the act of playing the piano, I guess. Would I never hear the piano again? If I could, I'd love to hear Tokyo play. In the future, Amane-san knows I'm apparently playing the piano. I smiled faintly alone. That could never happen. They say the years until 18 are vital for a pianist. And I only let that time slip by in vain. Even if the sound of the piano returned to my world today, I would not play. I stared blankly at the keys. It's never too late to do anything that you want, Unless you're actually, physically unable to do so. I pulled out the chair and sat down. I closed my eyes, letting my vision slip from my consciousness, then the sound with it. I held my fingers in position. All 10 fingers always came to rest in the same place, conscious or not. When I opened my eyes, I saw 2 hands trembling over the keys. My hands had suddenly grown small, much like Tokyo's now. They were the hands of a child. With nowhere to go, they trembled over the keys. Still lost and frightened, the tiny hands began to dance on the piano. Yet no matter which key they struck, no sound came out. The piercing silence dragged on, driving the quivering hands to pound the keys even harder. Somehow I could tell. Something precious to the owner of those hands had been lost, along with the sound of the piano. The next thing I knew, the white keys had begun to stain red. Noticing this, the small hands in my vision came to a stop. Two palms opened toward me. They were stained with blood. Maybe my dad dying had something to do with the piano. My consciousness returned to the living room. I'd been holding my breath without realizing it. My body resisted, forcing air into my lungs with ragged breaths. The haze in my vision cleared, sharpening from the center outward. Now back to reality, my vision centered on my own two hands, larger and returned to normal.
兄ちゃん、何してるの？
Tokyo had come to my side. Oh, Tokyo. Didn't notice you there.
ピアノ弾きたいの？
Nah, it's not that. I just...
僕が弾こうか？
Tokyo's innocent eyes looked up at me, tinged with unease. I stroked his head. Yeah, you're the pianist here after all. When Mom wakes up, play her the piece you've been practicing.
練習する。
Alright. I caught my breath and handed the chair over to Tokyo. When I looked up, my eyes fell on a family photo from when Dad was still alive. Where's my picture? I'm not there, or is that... No, that's Tokyo. Where the fuck am I? It was taken in front of the Grand Torii Gate at Kamakura's largest shrine. I was probably the one who took the photo. Okay. Since Dad was still around then, how old was I? How much would the average person remember? I gazed down at the photo for a while, then returned to my room and lay down again. How much would the average person remember, huh? The average person would remember pivotal memories, unless it's very traumatic. Aruto. When I woke up from my nap, it was still morning. I could feel someone was in the living room. The faint hum of the microwave reached my ears. I got up. I found Mom crouched in front of the microwave, waiting for the gyoza to heat up. She looked like an obedient dog told to wait. I couldn't help but chuckle. Mom looked up.
おはよう。そっか、今日代休か。
Which meal is that supposed to be? Mom thought for a moment.
夜食のような、朝食のような、昼食？
Just say it's breakfast. Just say it based on the time, Mom. Sounds tough.
患者さんの看護してるとタフになるのよ。
What, are you a nurse? As soon as the microwave beeped, Mom quickly opened the lid and pulled out the gyoza. There was a can of beer on the table. You're gonna drink at this hour? It's Monday morning, you know.
今日休みだし、夜勤明けだし、お米食べないし。
Well, whatever you say, Mom. You're the one with a medical degree, I guess. Mom sat down in her usual spot at the table, popped open the can of beer, and took a swig, her throat gulping in satisfaction. She let out a sigh as she said that, took another swig from the can, and bit into the gyoza. She munched away, looking pleased. Seeing you dig in like that really makes it worth the effort.
うまそうな飲みっぷりと食べっぷりに定評があります。これがね、男に一番モテるわけよ。
Do they now? I mulled over what Mom had said. She might have a point. Have had a point. Dad loved his alcohol. In fact, he was a real heavy drinker. And that's what shaved off his lifespan. Whoa, suddenly being so down to earth. This is so grounded suddenly.
アルト、朝からどっか行ってたよね。バイト？
Of course. Mom chuckled in exasperation.
そんなに働いてどうすんのよ。学生なのに。別にお金困ってないよ。
Sure, for now, but what will we do when Tokyo goes to college? You might go abroad, you know. Music costs money, even more so if you're as gifted as Tokyo. A dejected smile crossed Mom's face.
だからって、ハルトが自分の時間犠牲にしなくていい。母さんはアルトにも思いっきり青春してほしいな。
Hey, you're an actual decent mom. I am. Supporting Tokyo is my youth. I'm lucky to be able to cheer on a genius from up close.
そうかな。親が子離れするようにさ。アルトも時を離れしてみてもいいんじゃない？
Of course, once Tokyo's talent blooms, my part will be done. And when that happens, I'll make sure to get my investment back. You won't find better odds than this. She sighed.
誰に似たんだか。お父さん、お金のことなんてまるで考えてなかったけどね。
Maybe that's why he's a bum, Mom.
音楽家の家系なんて無駄遣いすればあっという間に赤字。
Mom's words brought Dad's face to mine. Maybe my dad was also a genius. He was a famous pianist known throughout the music world. The memories I had of him when he was alive lingered only in the hazy corners of my mind. I remembered the way Dad used to look at Tokyo. There was no mistaking it. It was full of hope for the future. But when it came to how Dad and I used to interact, I couldn't remember much. Maybe he used to look that way to you too. Like, who am I again? Aruto. Maybe the reason why you don't want to remember is because you disappoint your dad. Or maybe something happened, right? My past. It was wavering and hazy. As I idly pondered on days gone by, my thoughts naturally drifted to Amane-san, the girl who had called me to Nagano. A place with which I had no ties, yet apparently the place where I would face my past. Not even within my haziest of memories did any recollection of Nagano exist. Mom.
Huh?
Mom was just about to pop her second gyoza into her mouth. We've always lived in Kamakura, right? Mom froze, her mouth still wide open and the gyoza halfway to her lips, then looked at me.
どうして？
Oh, just asking.
理由なく聞く？いきなりどうしたのよ？
Well, stuff happened.
いろいろって？
Mom spoke with her cheeks still full of gyoza. It just sort of came up at yesterday's school festival.
誰と？エリちゃん？ハンジー君？そういう話ってどういう話？
My circle of friends was about as small as a fishbowl, so Mom knew every single one of their names. Eri Tachibana and Jiro Ando. That was it. Just two people. Something about childhood memories, I guess.
子供の頃の思い出か。
What, did they drug me so that I forget my childhood memories? What is going on? This is sounding more and more suspicious. Mom murmured as she gazed off into the distance, washed down her gyoza with a can of beer, and let out another groan. It was strange how, even though it was a groan, it still conveyed how tasty it was. That night, Amane-san's prophecy came true. A letter from abroad had arrived in our apartment mailbox. I opened it together with Mom. It was an invitation for Tokyo Musume to perform abroad. Every line was written in English. Even Mom, who never flinched at anything, was visibly stunned.
本当に時代が招待されてるの？チェコに？
Oh yeah, they do call it Checo. Yeah, we also call it Checo here. Looks like it.
時代が？間違いない？
See for yourself. I smiled and held out the letter. Mom took it and began following the English text with a serious expression. Can you read it?
多少は？インビテーションって 当だ。
How the hell does the Czech Republic know of Tokyo? It's so weird that they know of him. Mom turned the envelope over and stared hard at the sender's name. Maybe it's because of my dad's influence. Written there were words that seemed to be the name of the contest's organizers. Mom's eyes stopped at the contact information at the end. It listed an email address.
ちょっと連絡して詳細聞いてみる。
With that, Mom took out her smartphone. I called out in the direction of my room. Tokyo! They say they want you to play the piano. Sure, Tokyo replied casually. It was so anticlimactic I couldn't help but laugh. Mom's contacting them right now. You might get to ride a plane with her over summer break. Mom was tapping away at her smartphone with a serious look on her face. By then, I already had a feeling I knew how things would play out. There would be a reply. Whether I believed her or not, there was no escaping what Amani-san said. And if what she said was true, I might finally learn the truth about the memory that struck me whenever I touched the piano. It says they'll cover travel expenses, plus one companion ride.
え？そうなの？
She wasn't even sure. Mom answered, still focused on her smartphone. I smiled faintly. This too was just as Amani-san had predicted. Once things started moving forward, Mom would inevitably start worrying about me. And we couldn't afford to waste the hard-earned money we'd saved for Tokyo's future. Mom, I'm thinking of going to Nagano this summer. Hearing those words, Mom's expression went blank. She slowly lifted her face from her smartphone and stared at me in silence. A girl named Sari Amani invited me. I'm thinking of going.
あまね、サリ、あったの？
I guess she also knew who that is. I nodded. If what Amani-san said was true, Mom would send me off without a word. And by now, I was starting to believe that things would play out that way. A different kind of smile returned to Mom's face. It was gentle, yet somewhat lonely.
そっか。
There was a faint shimmer in Mom's eyes as she looked at me, her gaze unsteady.
いってらっしゃい。
Everyone knows about Amani, but not me. What the fuck, dude? These guys are just keeping secrets from me. What's going on? This is not cool, yo. It had all gone exactly as in Amani-san's future memories. This is not cool. You know something, Mom. Wow, that's the end of chapter 1? Okay. I think I'm actually going to call it an episode right here. Wow, chapter 1 ended pretty quickly. Oh my god, I thought that I was going to probably take like 10 hours to finish this, but... Jesus, this is going quicker than I think. I think I'm going to go do like 1 episode per chapter or something like that or similar. But I'm not getting any achievements though for unlocking chapter or finishing chapter 1. Next episode may be a bit longer, I don't know, or maybe it's about the same length, we'll see. But wow, that was really fast. I was like blazing through that that chapter. And you know, I thought that we still had like 1 more month before summer break, but yeah, they just like speedran that. And now we're in summer break. But okay, I'm gonna go call this an episode though. It's very enjoyable, but at the same time, I'm like, everything is way too cryptic. Amani Sari is too cryptic. My mom knowing about Amani Sari is cryptic. My brother is probably the only guy and the only character in this visual novel so far that's not really weird. He's just an innocent kid, that's it. Everyone else feels like they know something. Maybe except for Angie too. Maybe Angie is just an idiot. But okay. I'm gonna go call an episode right here. This is not a Patreon exclusive. This is gonna be up on YouTube every Sundays. But if people on YouTube want to watch this, you know, it's probably gonna be done already by the time, well, maybe not. It's probably gonna be done probably like 1 week in advance for people on YouTube. Or sorry, for people on Patreon. But yeah, this will be like a weekly thing. I'll probably be doing similar like series at some point if people actually reach out to me and give me some keys and I'll play their games. It's probably going to be a Sunday like weekly episode. So for the most part, Sundays are going to be update videos for me and also these weekly series for short visual novels that I get from, you know, people that give me keys and stuff. But yeah, this is a pretty interesting one so far. But okay, let me just plug the Patreon and stuff, do the outro, and I will see you guys in the next one. How do I usually plug the Patreon again? It's been like a couple of playthroughs since I did the plugging outro. So this is gonna take a while. Like the video if you guys liked it. Sub if you guys haven't. Patreon will be getting these episodes early access along with everything uncensored. There we go. I think that's about it. Though I don't think there's 8 scenes in this game. I believe Cyanotype and also the Radio Pigeon one has 8 scenes, but not on the Steam version. But I do think that they have a recovered 18 plus version or something on VNDB. But I do believe this one doesn't have any 18 plus. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. I will see you guys on the next one. See ya.